1,000 echoes surrounded me. None of them carried my name. Every direction I faced, another voice, dictating, shaping, demanding who I should become, how I should move, what I should chase, what I should fear. It kept rising, relentless, unforgiving, until my own voice faded into nothing. Look at yourself, scrolling endlessly, watching everything, listening to everyone, absorbing the world while abandoning your own mind. You call it knowledge, you call it connection, but strip it down, it's chaos, constant, suffocating chaos, and it's draining you, not all at once, but slowly, quietly. So quietly, you've mistaken it for normal. It feels familiar, comfortable, even safe, but that comfort, it's deception. You're trapped. A prison built from opinions, reinforced by expectations, locked tight by your fear of standing alone. They handed you definitions of success, of happiness, of what a worthy life should look like, and you accepted them without question, didn't you? You followed their blueprints, wore identities that were never yours, ran after dreams you never chose. And somewhere in that endless performance, you vanished. I know, because I lived it. Submerged in a world that never shuts up, chasing voices that didn't even know I existed. Do more. Be less. You're not enough. You're too much. Change. Stay the same. Endless contradictions, pulling me apart, tearing pieces of me away, one by one, until reality itself felt uncertain. Tell me something. When was the last time you sat with nothing? No music, no screen, no borrowed voices filling the emptiness. Just you and your thoughts, raw, unfiltered, unprotected. You can't remember. Of course you can't, because silence terrifies you. Not noise, not chaos. Silence. Because in silence, there's nowhere to hide. No distractions, no excuse, no one else to blame. Just you and truth. And truth, it's heavy, it's sharp, it cuts deep. The truth is, you don't know yourself. Not truly. You know what you've been shown, what you've been told, what earns approval. But the real you, buried under layers of noise, years of pretending, pressure to fit into something you were never designed to be. Look at your life carefully. Is it yours, or is it stitched together from borrowed pieces, borrowed dreams, borrowed beliefs, borrowed desires? Wake up, scroll, compare, doubt, adjust, repeat, over and over, a cycle, a loop, a silent catch. And the worst part, you've mistaken it for living. But it's not living, it's surviving someone else's narrative. You react instead of creating. You consume instead of evolving. Every notification pulls you further away from yourself. Every opinion reshapes you into something smaller. Every comparison erodes what little identity you have left. Until one day, you wake up empty. Not because you lack anything, but because nothing belongs to you. I know that emptiness, that hollow quiet in a world screaming with noise, that exhaustion from being everything for everyone and nothing for yourself. I was there, smiling outside, breaking inside, surrounded, yet completely alone, because no one knew me, not even me. I was everywhere, except within. Think about that. Running, performing, chasing, everywhere, except the only place that mattered, inside, where truth lives, where power sleeps, where your real self waits, ignored, abandoned, forgotten, and you wonder why you feel lost, why nothing feels right, why even your achievements feel empty, because they're not aligned. They were never yours. You built everything on noise, and noise has no foundation. It collapses every time. The world doesn't want clarity. It wants your attention, because attention is control. A distracted mind is easy to shape, easy to influence, easy to break. They don't need change. They just need your focus. And you gave it away freely, every day, every hour, every second. You traded identity for approval, voice for comfort, truth for belonging. And now you're stuck, confused, overwhelmed, drowning. But here's what no one tells you. Noise only controls you if you listen. Read that again. Noise only controls you if you listen. You think it's everywhere, unavoidable. It's not. It's a choice. And you've been choosing it again and again and again, not because you're weak, but because you were never taught how to be alone, how to sit with yourself, how to face your own mind without running. So you escape into screens, into conversations, into distractions, anything to avoid silence. Because deep down, you already know what's waiting there. Questions without answers, truths you've avoided, a version of you you've ignored for too long. And facing that, it hurts, it burns, it breaks you open. But listen carefully, that pain is the beginning, not noise, not chaos, not opinions of people who don't live your life. Silence, that's where everything shifts. But you're not ready yet, not fully, because first, you need to understand this. You didn't lose yourself instantly. You were pulled away slowly, voice by voice, piece by piece, until all that remained were echoes, echoes of who you could have been, echoes of who you were meant to be. And now here you stand, restless, searching, surrounded by noise, still holding on to it, because without it, you don't know who you are. Good. That fear, that discomfort, that uncertainty, that's the crack, the first fracture in the illusion, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you realize you've been living for others, you can't go back. Once you feel your own absence, you begin to crave your presence. And that craving, it changes everything. Because the moment you turn inward, question everything, pull away from the noise, you become unpredictable, uncontrollable, unbreakable, but not yet. Right now, you're still drowned, still listening, still trapped in a world that never goes quiet, and it never will. The noise won't stop, so the decision is yours. A brutal one. Keep listening and disappear completely, or walk away. Disconnect. Step into the one thing you've avoided your entire life. Silence. Because in silence, there's no guidance, no validation, no escape, just you. And whatever remains of you, terrifying, but powerful, a kind of power no one can give you and no one can take. But to reach it, you have to let everything false die completely. No half steps, no excuse. Let it burn. Every expectation, every borrowed identity, every illusion you've carried, destroy it until all that remains is you, raw, undefined, standing alone in the quiet for the first time, hearing your own voice, clear, sharp, real. And when that moment comes, when the noise fades, when the chaos dies, when the world finally goes silent, you'll understand something. You were never lost. You were submerged. And drowning ends when you stop fighting the water and rise above it, and you will rise. But first, the noise has to die. Small actions, repeated relentlessly. Wake, move, strain, repeat. No matter what my body begged for, no matter how brutal it felt, no matter how invisible the progress seemed, because discipline is not born in moments of glory. It is forged in monotony, in repetition, in showing up when there is no audience, when no one is watching, when no one is impressed, no applause, no recognition, just effort, unfiltered, unnoticed effort. That's where people collapse, because they crave outcomes, immediate, visible, impressive, but real evolution hides, silent, unseen, agonizingly slow. Day after day, you return. You push beyond limits. You endure, and it feels pointless, like nothing is shifting, but something is inside. Your mind is recalibrating. Your body is adapting. Your threshold is expanding. You are hardening, fragment by fragment, until one day you feel it. The pain that once crushed you no longer touches you the same way. The struggle that once stopped you becomes routine. The discomfort that once terrified you becomes your foundation. And in that moment, you understand you didn't escape difficulty. You became stronger than it. It didn't get easier. You became harder. Again, it didn't get easier. You became harder. That is reality. Life doesn't soften. You sharpen, stronger, colder, more disciplined, more in control, and pain becomes an ally, a teacher, a weapon. You stop running from it. You begin to study it. Because every time it appears, it offers something: growth, expansion, transformation, or stagnation. And that choice defines everything. I chose growth every time, no matter the cost, no matter the suffering, no matter how brutal the path became, because I understood something others didn't. Short-term pain creates permanent strength. Short-term comfort creates permanent weakness. Choose carefully. Every easy choice builds a harder future. Every hard choice builds an easier one. I chose the difficult road again and again until it stopped being something I did and became who I am. Discipline wasn't an action anymore. It became identity. Relentless, unyielding, unstoppable, not gifted. Earned through suffering, resistance, repetition. Luck had nothing to do with it. I didn't get lucky. I got stronger. And now pain doesn't intimidate me. It pulls me forward because I know what follows it: growth, control, power. So when it arrives, I don't hesitate. I don't complain. I don't escape. I step into it. I absorb it. I use it. Because beyond that pain exists a version of me that cannot be broken, a version that cannot be stopped, a version that does not lose. Pain stopped being punishment. It became preparation. And I trained until breaking me became impossible. There comes a point, a dark, irreversible point, where you realize you cannot carry your old self any further. Not because you don't want to, but because it is too heavy, too fragile, too limited. It cannot survive where you are going. And in that moment, you face a decision: cling to it or kill it. Most people cling to their past, to their identity, to familiarity, even when it weakens them, even when it suffocates them, because letting go feels like death, and they are right. It is. I remember when it hit me sharp, clear, inevitable. Who I was could never become who I needed to be. This wasn't improvement. This was elimination. Total. The version you knew didn't survive. He didn't survive because he couldn't. He was built on comfort, hesitation, excuses. He avoided pressure. He feared discomfort. He chose easy. That version had to be erased completely. I didn't fix him. I destroyed him. Every weak habit gone. Every limiting thought silenced. Every attachment holding me back cut. No hesitation. No mercy. You don't negotiate with weakness. You eliminate it. Look at yourself right now. Who are you beneath everything? Not the mask, not the image, the truth. Are you disciplined, or do you fold under pressure? Focused or easily distracted? Strong or just comfortable? Be honest, because the truth shows you exactly what must die. Transformation isn't addition, it's subtraction. Removing everything that limits you, everything that weakens you, everything that keeps you average. And that process is brutal because you are not changing habits, you are erasing identity, how you think, how you act, how you see yourself. Gone, rebuilt. Before anything new can exist, the old must vanish completely. I let go of everything: comfort, excuses, approval, fear of judgment, waiting for the right moment. Gone. I didn't grieve that version. I buried him without hesitation because he was the reason I stayed stuck, the reason I stayed weak. So I ended him. Mentally, emotionally, completely. And what came after was silence. Not peaceful silence. Empty, cold, numb. Because when everything you were disappears, there is nothing left, just void. Most people can't handle that. They run back to comfort, back to familiarity. But I stayed because I understood something. That void is where you rebuild, where something stronger is created. But first you have to sit in it, feel it, the loss, the detachment, the disconnection from everything you once were. It hurts. It is supposed to. You are shedding skin, breaking patterns, destroying years of conditioning. Growth feels wrong because you are leaving the familiar behind. I became cold, not heartless. Control, detached from weakness, detached from needing approval. Emotions are observed, not obeyed. Fear acknowledged, then ignored. Doubt heard, then silenced. Comfort rejected every time. Because comfort is the enemy. It keeps you safe, and safe keeps you stagnant. I refused stagnation, so I let everything die. Every version of me that couldn't handle pressure gone. Every thought that told me to quit erased. And slowly something new formed. Not perfect, but enough. Enough to move. Enough to build. From nothing. From emptiness. From ashes. That is what people misunderstand. Transformation is not growth. It is death followed by rebirth. And rebirth demands sacrifice. You don't become stronger by holding on. You become stronger by letting go. By destroying weakness. So ask yourself what needs to die. Your habits, your mindset, your excuses, your comfort. Whatever it is, end it completely. Because half change leads to total failure. You either evolve or decay. And decay is the real death, slow, silent. I chose destruction of everything holding me back. And now there is no return. Because that version is gone. And what is rising is something unrecognizable, uncontrollable, unbreakable. After everything ended, after the noise vanished, after the lies collapsed, after weakness was buried, there was nothing. No applause, no recognition, just silence, cold, unforgiving. And that is where it began. Not loud, not dramatic, invisible. I started again from zero. No identity, no validation, just discipline. Pure, relentless discipline. Every day I showed up, not because I felt like it, but because I chose to. And choice is stronger than emotion. Motivation fades, feelings shift, but decisions define you. So I decided to rebuild slowly, carefully, with precision, brick by brick, habit by habit. No shortcuts, no distractions, no audience. And that's where most fail, because they need to be seen. I didn't. Silence became proof I was on the right path. No one clapped. Good. Because applause creates comfort, and comfort slows you down. I didn't want performance. I wanted transformation. And transformation happens in darkness, in isolation. That is where I built myself consistency, repetition, trust in the process, trust in the silence. And slowly everything changed. Not outside, but inside. Focus sharpened. Discipline became automatic. I stopped reacting. I started controlling. Quiet power, unseen, unshaken. I stopped talking and started executing. While others chased attention, I chased improvement. And eventually, it showed not loudly, but undeniably, people noticed. Not through words, but through presence, through silence. Something changed. Heavier. Controlled, dangerous. You speak less now. You explain nothing. You don't chase approval anymore. And that alone unsettles them because they remember a different version of you. The accessible one, the readable one, the one they could predict without effort. But that version, it no longer exists. Something else took its place. And they can feel it before they can define it. There's a shift in your presence, a distance that wasn't there before, a kind of stillness that feels heavier than noise. They try to decode it. They fail every time. So they fall back to questions instead. Are you all right? Why have you gone so quiet? You're not the same anymore. Yes, you're not. And they're only beginning to notice what changed. They look at you now like you became unfamiliar territory. Perfect. That was the point. Because familiarity is where control grows roots. Predictability is where people get comfortable manipulating you. And you are no longer available for that. You are no longer easy to read, no longer predictable in emotion, reaction, or intent. Something inside you shifted into structure, into restraint, into something they cannot label or contain. And that uncertainty, it disturbs them. Good. Let it, because comfort was exactly what kept you small. Now you've outgrown it, not just mentally, not just physically, completely. Your actions are no longer random. Every movement is deliberate. Every response is filtered through awareness. No wasted energy, no emotional leakage, just precision. In your mind, it's not crowded anymore. It's clear, focused, stripped of unnecessary noise, no spiraling thought, no hesitation loops, just direction. And that clarity is not peace. It is authority, a kind of power that doesn't announce itself, doesn't seek permission, doesn't require recognition. It simply enters a space and the atmosphere adjusts. That is what you've become. Not loud, not performative, but impossible to ignore. They feel it even when they don't understand it. And that's where real transformation lives. Not in self-perception, but in external reaction. Respect arrives without request. Distance forms without demand. Attention appears without pursuit. Because you stop chasing outcomes. Stop begging for validation. Stop trying to belong everywhere. And instead, you belong to yourself. That's rare. Most never reach it. Most stay dependent on reflection from others. So they remain predictable, manageable, contained, but you broke that pattern. You stepped outside of it. And now you exist differently. Not because you need to, but because you choose to. Because access to you is no longer automatic. It is earned. And most people haven't earned anything. So you stay selective, not from arrogance, from clarity, from awareness of what people cost you over time. You've changed too much to regress, too aware to pretend, to evolve to fit back into versions of yourself that once tolerated everything. That past self is not nearby anymore. It's distant, almost unreal. And what stands in its place now feels structured, disciplined, controlled in a way that cannot be undone easily, but also dangerous. Not toward people, toward mediocrity, toward weakness, toward anything that once diluted your direction. Look at yourself carefully, not who you say you are, not who you intend to be, who you actually are when everything is stripped away. There's evidence now in how you think, in how you pause before reacting, in how you no longer entertain chaos the same way. Something has already shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. It shows in silence, in restraint, in the way you no longer over-explain your decisions, because you don't need agreement anymore. You only need execution. And that is where separation begins, between who you were and who you are becoming, between dependence and control, between reaction and command. The change isn't theoretical anymore. It's visible in behavior, in patience, in emotional distance, in refusal to engage with unnecessary noise. And the strange part, you didn't announce it. You built it quietly, repeatedly, through discipline no one witnessed, through restraint no one applauded, through consistency no one tracked. And now it exists, fully formed. Even you can feel it when you look back. The old reactions feel foreign. The old impulses feel unstable. The old version of patience feels like weakness. That's how you know the transformation is real, because you don't argue with your past self anymore. You outgrew it. And what scares people around you is not aggression, it's unreadability. It's the fact that you no longer broadcast intention. You simply move. And when someone cannot predict you, they lose leverage. They lose influence. They lose access. And that creates distance naturally, not forced, not explained, just inevitable, because you are no longer emotionally open terrain. You are structured ground now, measured, guarded, aware of what enters and what doesn't. And inside that structure, something stabilizes. Not emotion, not validation, control. And control is what changes how everything responds to you. You don't seek approval anymore. You don't chase recognition anymore. You don't adjust yourself to be understood, because understanding is no longer your responsibility. Execution is, and execution speaks louder than explanation ever could. You stopped performing life for others to interpret and started building it for yourself to dominate. That is why silence now surrounds you differently. It is no longer emptiness. It is construction. It is observation. It is control taking shape without interruption. And slowly, everything aligns around that shift. People notice without being told. They feel distance without being informed. They sense change without having evidence, because presence changes before words ever do. And yours has already changed, irreversibly, So let them question, let them hesitate, let them try to categorize what they can't understand. Because while they are analyzing the shift, you are already living beyond it, not reacting, not explaining, not defending, just continuing forward. And that is where power stops being visible and starts becoming unavoidable.